Good morning and welcome to Wednesday morning, the 14th of July 2021. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show this morning. My name is Folu Falodun and I'm welcoming you to the show this morning from the streets of the beautiful city of Lagos. Thank you for joining us again this morning and for keeping a date with us. For those joining us for the first time, we say thank you. We usually have a bell of the welcome bell, but it's not here right now. We will be ringing that for you at another time. Good morning, Joel Olani, and welcome to the tribe. We're glad to have you here. What we usually do, our our usual um, lineup is that we start off with the headlines from the dailies that have to do with education, and then we go on to the topic of the day. We have the grant of the day, and we have analysts come on to discuss those topics that we bring up on a daily basis. We'll also like to hear from you, our tribe members. So please drop your comments. We'll be sure to take your comments as they come in. So, already I see Joel Olani, and good morning. Thank you for joining us. So, going on to the show this morning, we'll be starting off with the headlines. Our first headline says Quara assesses 7 billion naira grants for construction of 600 schools. That's good news. That's good news. And like people say, where do you people see this money? I will say that Kwara State should show other states the way to assess. Also, the more schools we have, the better it is for us as a country, the better it is for the states and for the children involved. We are already joined by one of our analysts. Good morning, Omotola Akeshola. Welcome to the show this morning.
Good morning, Finn. Good to be here.
Great. Do
So,
you have any comments on the Kwara
yes,
State grant?
I do. I'm a bit worried because I think it's good, but I think they need to rethink it. I don't think all the money should just go towards construction of new school. We have so many schools that are already that like they are not well equipped already. So, what part of the money will go towards upgrading and updating those ones instead of starting all over again? Already, they've built those, like the classes are there. What if they take the money and spread it apart in actually equipping it instead of just building new schools in the sense of things? Because the ones that we currently have, they are not up to date. They are not uh, helpful to the future of the younger generation coming. So I'm a bit like wishy-washy about it. So it's like I think it's a good thing, but I think their priority is misguided in it. But congratulations to them either way.
Okay, there may be a grant for renovation and upgrading of existing schools. Let's hope that, well, I'm sure there's a plan. Moving on, maintain balance between education and sports. Female footballer tells Queen's College students. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because the truth is, not everybody who start out in sport is going to become the like favorite or the most beloved footballer, like all of those ones that we know about Kanu, Okocha, Ronaldo, and the rest of them. And so having that backup to say, you know what, yes, I am passionate about sport, I love it, I want to make a career out of it. But in case maybe they have an injury or something does not work out, they should not just put their egg in one basket and not take care of their education or really invest in their education as well. So while they are investing in becoming exceptional in the game of sports, they should also put that time and attention into their education as well. So I absolutely agree with that.
Okay, so this is one of those areas where I believe that our influence on younger people is more effective and it's more visible because here they have someone who is in the field. You're not telling them stuff out of the textbook. You're talking to them from a place of experience, from a place of, well, this is what I do now, and this is how you can strike a balance. One thing that we don't really do at is teaching how to strike a balance. And we see so many teenagers, so many young people take interest in sports. And because they hear about all of these other guys who are making so much money, and their mind is, oh, I also want to do this so that I can make some money. Having someone teach them how to strike a balance is a very welcome idea. And I am hoping that we get to do more of this, that we get to do more of real life modeling to younger people in school. Oh, okay. COVID-19 third wave. Unilag Medical Center records increase in patients with flu-like symptoms. Omotala, any thoughts on this? Any reactions?
Uh, well, I think we've not really managed the COVID-19 pandemic well in the first place. And so I don't think it's enough to just say that they record increase in patients. What are they going to do about it? How are they, like, what things are they putting in place to ensure that it does not become like worse than it is already? And so my question is, what proactive step are they going to take beyond just saying that, oh, there is a higher number, and what are they? I'm glad that they're telling the public, which is good, so that people can still do the needful and wear the masks and keep 6 feet apart or whatever it's needed to do. But beyond just stating that there's a high record, what is the plan? What is the strategy to manage it so that it doesn't get out of hand and cause more harm than good?
Okay, thank you for that, Omotola. One thing that is clear is that as a nation, we have not properly managed this pandemic. Even before the third wave, the first wave, I mean, people were clamoring so much to go. We understand the kind of economy we have, but then it's a healthy person that can make money. So the now we're talking about the third wave, and just this morning I was saying that it looks like Lagos is the only state in Nigeria that is handling or that is battling COVID-19. We get a lot more of proactive reactions from Lagos State than other states. And now schools have resumed, students are back, they're in their hostels. It's not a wonder that Unilag Medical Center is increasing a surge in flu like symptoms. And remembering that this is a rainy season, a lot of these things are going to show up. We need to be able to distinguish between when it's just flu and when it's COVID. Okay, our next headline: Kogi Poly expels 150 students. Okay, Senate moves to stop JAM from admitting candidates below 18 years. Um, I'm trying to make a decision to avoid JAM, to avoid anything that has to do with JAM, but
Oh my
almost
goodness. Yes, I think
what's
the problem is not the student or their age. And I think we are going backward if they think that the solution is restricting the age, and that's what's going to reduce the number of like failure that we are experiencing. They still are not getting it, and they're not looking within them. They are still shifting the blame. And so, yes, like you, I am really frustrated with them, and I really wish they will really do better. So I don't think it is the Senate's job to be censoring who can apply for JAM or anything of that nature. It's not about the age. It's not about whether or not if they're not 18, then they're not good enough. No, that is not the point. The point is about restructuring the whole curriculum, making sure it's tailored to the present circumstance of the student, what they covered in school. Because even if they restrict the age and they say at 18, many people will still fail. I know, and I've heard of news, and I've had of even close friend that had to do jam 7 times. Some of them were 27, 28, 20, or 24, 25. So it's not about the age. So they're still missing the whole point in the whole process, and it's just really getting irritating to me as well that together, all of them, I don't know how many people that works in jam, they cannot put their head together, they cannot brainstorm, they cannot review the data of the past few years or 10 years or even the last year to say, you know what, some things need to be fixed. And so I am highly disappointed in them, and Senate should be calling out the leader or sacking them or saying that we're going to really take a better step, not blaming it on the student and saying it's because of their age. That is just BS in my own opinion.
Okay, so I'm going to come from a different angle and say that actually the age of entrance into the university matters. There are developmental stages for children, for the developmental.
Hello. I disagree a little bit with what you're saying. Yes, I agree that there are developmental stages, but go
But
ahead. Yeah, sorry, start again. The only thing we had was like you were saying the developmental age, then you went off.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I was saying that it's a move in the right direction. It's one of the things that they need to look at. It's not the most important thing, but it's one of the things that they need to look at because the age of an individual and at different levels of their lives matter. So it's something that needs to be regulated, especially where you have schools, secondary schools, primary schools that do this thing of student being able skipping classes or skipping levels, and then you find somebody at 16 going into the university is not mentally prepared, is not ready for what that phase of life is presenting to him. So really, this should be regulated. It's not the only thing that they need to do with JAMB, and sometimes the age of an individual may be responsible for how they turn out or the way they're able to process certain information or respond to certain stimuli. Yeah, I agree. It's not the
I
most important thing, but
Yes,
then it needs to be regulated.
but also I also disagree a little bit because I don't think it should be the job of the of JAM officials or the Senate to decide who is old enough and who is able to take the academic what do you call it rigor of university. That should be between the parents and the children themselves. But yes, but yeah, so I still don't believe that that is their role and that's the most important thing they should be focusing on right now. So I don't agree that that's their best effort, and yeah, attention should not be on that.
Okay, if you're leaving that
I
to
understand where
parents,
you're coming from. I do
yeah,
understand
but
where you're
if you're
coming
leaving
from.
that to parents, some parents will put their children in the university at 14 years. So, for every institution, there are guiding laws. There are places that will tell you you can't go into until you're 18. You need a valid ID to access those places if you're not 18. So yeah, the Senate should be able to sit on this and come up with. If not, anybody gets in as the registrar of JAMB and they just set rules as it fits them or as they deem fit.
Because sorry to interrupt, because the question is what will happen to those students? What if they finish at the age of 16 from secondary school? So are they supposed to just sit aimlessly for 2, 3 years? And then there are students that are geniuses that by the age of 16, 15, they graduate university. So I don't think that age should be the factor that should be the most important factors to determine what regulation they are going to set. So it doesn't sit well with me. I don't think that that is the best or the most like appropriate one. But yes, we are going. This should be another topic entirely
Okay.
for a topic for the whole day. But anyways, I digressed.
Okay.
Disagreement,
Okay. It doesn't sit well
agreement,
with Omotola.
disagreement, the agreement. All right, thank you very much. Good morning once again. And Dr. Motola is spitting fire. Finn is also spitting fire. But then I think I have an extinguisher on the show. Okay, so before
It's
you
not
burn the studio,
volatile.
your discussion reminds me of King Solomon and having to decide who owns the baby, you know. But
Oh Jesus.
I think it's just a difference in opinion and the way we see and process some of these things.
but let me tell you the honest truth, right? A lot of comments that we begin to see in the public domain just kind of helps us to see that where the major problem is, we are not sitting down to address it. The world is changing. Nigeria is part of the world, therefore Nigeria is changing. While we hold on to good ideals, we must understand ideals themselves function within a framework. We have not done some things about our system and model of education. And so now we are enforcing rules that still will find, think about it, the percentile of the school system cannot really deliver and cater for the education needs of the country. So it's almost difficult for you to come up with a flat rule of thumb. You know, JAMB is not a full institution that can take care of the expanding and demanding needs of the populace, neither are the university system. So when we now turn the Senate or we turn the House of Rep into a place where if you feel that meat pie is too expensive in Lagos, you probably talk to a senator and then they say, okay, all meat pie producers should reduce the cost of meat pie. And I think that we might be missing the mark. Where we need to sit down and deal with the root of the matter, we are not focusing on that. It's not at the JAM level, neither is it at the age benchmark level. Do you understand? It's almost good if 18-year-old cannot get into if less than 18-year-old cannot get into the university system, then we should also try to see if possible that no university system should graduate anybody lower than second class lower. I don't know whether I get but that's a different discussion. Let me take some comments, right? From Joel Olanio, thank you for joining. It says most parents have been involved in moving their children from one class to another without necessarily confirming their readiness for the external exams. Countries abroad have been able to structure their education system, that's what I'm trying to say, to ensure that students are not only intellectually mature, but to ensure that they are emotionally and socially ready, not only for exams, but for life. I'm bringing a better thing for Joel. And I'm sure Dr. Motola agrees with this. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why like I am so like against it because I'm like from like you said, President Rotimi, like from the beginning, it's already rotten. So if we don't address the root cause, that's just a bandit that is not going to last. So that's why I am so not against them deciding who can or who cannot write jam. Yes, absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
from from Joel's comment, we're seeing the reality that look, when people go to school, it's almost like saying if you've passed a particular level, there should be certain things that should naturally be expected of you. It's like you go to school and you're not able to speak English. it's almost like a surprise to anybody that how come. So it's the same thing. Going through the primary education to the secondary education, we must ensure that certain things must actually should have been taken care of. But there's no one that is owning up to that. Primary schools are not owning up to that. Secondary schools are not owning up to that. And now we're at the point of university and we're trying to play a referee for a deregulated or unregulated market. I think we need to move on. Kogi Poly expels 150 students for various offenses. Sentences 1 to 8 years imprisonment. I don't get it. Is it the university that is?
When I saw this headline, it was so I had to read again. I had to backtrack and say Kogi Poly sentences 1 to 8 years. When did Kogi Poly become a court of law? But reading through the news itself, I realized this is just one of those things that journalists do. Faulty headlining. The rector did not say that they sentenced anybody. What the rector said was that they were able to secure judgment and sentencing for a student who was found in possession of arms. And this is what we're saying about education. Journalists try to be sensational, and then they put out some headlines that you just wonder whoever wrote this, whoever the editor is that allowed this to pass, needs to have a little bit of talk with their boss. How do you just report that a polytechnic sentence it just takes away from the news item itself for me, because that's really distracting and that is faulty headlining.
All right. French Institute reopens library. That's our next headline. Dr. Motala, do you want to say something on that?
Yes. I think it's a good one. I'm glad that is coming back, because I know that's one of the big things that we don't have a lot of when it comes to in terms of our cities and state across Nigeria. And there is no like places like library for young people to go to, even think of inside in secondary schools and even primary schools. Hardly does any of the most of the public schools have libraries. So if there is an opportunity where they can have this access to, students can have access to these and be able to experience new, have contact with books and other educational materials that will enhance their growth and development. So I'm thankful for their initiative, and I hope that they can spread it further beyond just one location where they are right now.
Okay, so I'd like to say something about that. This library is a French library, and its main purpose, its first line of responsibilities, promoting the culture, promoting the ideals of the French people. As much as it's a good initiative to have a public library, which we don't have many of these days, and we talked about that recently, we should also be looking at having our own libraries because one of the things the news says is that the place was renovated, they had to bring in new French books into the library. So are we looking at libraries that will not continue to, like on our own soil, we're growing people that are export material, like it's like consciously just going into somebody's house and recruiting their children just to take them away. We're exposing them more to the cultures of these foreign cultures and letting them say, oh, it's very enticing to go to France. It's very exciting or very enticing to leave the country. Can we have more of our own libraries that help our children understand our history, understand our culture, understand who we are as a people and not lose their identity?
I agree with what you said, Fee, but another perspective, I guess, to maybe broaden it is like French is not language is not just spoken outside of Africa. you know, there are many African countries who are also like that they speak French, and now with the like opportunity to like open up like freedom of people and good protocol that they are that is trying to come to happen, like having like a African passport with like think of the EU where like anywhere in Europe you can travel with one passport. So I think it's not just about thinking outside of the continent, but also even within the continent it is important. And I know before, even in our education system, when I was growing up in Nigeria, they used to like French was a big part of the languages they wanted us to learn, and but it did not work out, at least for me in that regard. So I just want to share that perspective as well. That it's not just about the outside world, but it's also closer to us in terms of like different countries around us that actually have French as their first language or part of their languages as well.
All right. I have a comment here, and then before then, let's welcome Safety Chick. Safety Chick.
Good
Good
morning, Mr. Richie. Good morning,
morning.
Dr. Matula. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
team. And good morning to our amazing listeners.
Good morning, Gochi.
Let me just add something. I didn't start this story, this French story from the beginning, but let me just add something because this is actually why some Africans from French-speaking countries have more advantages over English speakers. So when you go to international settings and you have both French-speaking and English-speaking people, so when they have to be committees or they have to be leadership roles, one side does not trust one side because they feel that, oh, if the English person goes there, he may sideline the French speaking people. The French people are rooting for their own French person to get in, so I will not be sidelined. And so what normally happens at the end of the day is people would gravitate towards an African who speaks both English and French because somehow you feel that your interest will be covered because that connection is there. So it would be great if more Nigerians have this the French, because if you notice, many Africans from French-speaking backgrounds, they go the extra mile to also have English because they know that the world is majorly English, right? So they go the extra mile to have the other. And then we, the English speakers, we think, oh, we're just the all and all. We don't need we don't need the other ones. And the truth is, we do need, most especially when you work in settings with people from other nationalities. It helps to bridge the gap. It helps to create that sense of oneness and make people to feel like their own interests will be covered. And I'm saying this experiential because I know the drama we had one time like that when the French basically they just organized and overthrew the English because they just felt that, oh no, you people, I don't think you guys are going to cater to our interests because you only speak English. Let's have someone who speaks both. And that was what happened. So I just think it's important that we begin to have more languages. And it's not even only about French, it's also that more English speakers should think about learning Chinese, should think about learning Spanish, and of course, not leaving our own mother tongue behind, but we should be intentional about having other languages.
Thank you for that contribution. And I can see that part of your summer plans is to learn more languages. So I'll say to you, good luck. Joel Lalanya says, I'm a bilingual speaker and I'm ready to coach as many as are willing to learn French. Fantastic. And he says, I am also open to offers at international level. But he has not said whether it's free. Anyways, if you come from the Good Morning Education Show, you probably get a discount. Just tell them that. All right. I think we can start off with the conversation of the day. And of course, before then, our usual practice is to tell you what we have in store. We're going to start with the grant for the day. And the grant for the day is going to be taken by no other person but Dr. Omotola. So do you want to start off, Dr. Omotola, the grant for the day?
Sure, absolutely. So our grant of today is coming from the Global Fund for Children. It's rolling deadline, meaning that you can apply anytime. And the grant money is not specific, so it ranges depending on what they have in their budget, but at least expect $1,000 and upward. And you can apply it for women and girl services, youth development, leadership, child welfare services, vocational and trade education, and then child abuse and neglect, women rights and equality, reproductive health, reproductive right, life skills training, rehabilitation, educational access, and equity. The people, those that can apply are strictly non-profit, but don't let that limit you. You might know a non-profit that you love and you have this idea for any of these specific field of work, so you can collaborate with them and apply through them. And you can use the funding for either general operating expenses to pay salaries, to buy things for your organization, and you can, yeah, it is open to anyone across the world. So you're not limited to just being a Nigerian alone. Thank you.
And of course, if you're looking for a website to check for that, the website's on the screen, globalfundforchildren.org. That's the grant for the day. Thank you, Dr. Motola. Of course, we also want people to be reminded of the fact that in just about 2-3 days time, we're going to be having a grant development webinar, and you need to register for this. And because of that, I'll just give us 2 minutes to watch our advert on the grant development webinar. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere, not anyway. This is the Good Morning Education Show. All right, we're right back, and this is the Good Morning Education Show, and we're ready for the conversation of the day. Today, we are saying it's time to attempt big things. Attempt big things. And of course, we have big people here who've attempted big things in the past and still attempting big things. And when we say big people, we don't necessarily mean big in size, but we have people who are doing big things, you know. Yeah, so let's hear from Ugochi. We'll start with Ugochi today. So we're talking about attempting big things, right? And what's your counsel to people out there listening to us, professionals, stakeholders, practitioners? You know, sometimes it's like a lot of people consider themselves not to be worthy of big things, right? What's your take? What's your feedback on this?
Hey, I would just say that you are not small. Everybody is capable of doing big things. You are not small. Do not count yourself out without even attempting to even find out what is necessary. You might discover in the course of finding out that it is something you can do. But if you have already counted yourself out, then you don't even get the chance. So please, first of all, do not count yourself out. Do not, and then do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Yes, I know that it might look scary, you know, it might look, oh my God, am I sure I'm capable? But again, don't be scared. One of the things that can help to build your confidence and help you not to get scared is whenever you have a big thing that you want to do, it looks so big, sit down and break it down into small and manageable steps. Just sit down for a few minutes, sit down, walk through the entire process, you know, break it down. What are these components? When you break it down and even try to even break it down across a timeline, what happens is you begin to feel a bit more in control because it doesn't look overwhelming anymore. So if, for example, you write on your to-do list, I want to write a book that is going to be read across the entire continent. even you, when you go to your to-do list and you see it, your heart will, it will skip. But if you sit down and then you break it down to say, okay, so in this week we're going to brainstorm on likely topics. Then in 2 weeks' time we're going to brainstorm on creating an outline. Then in another 2 weeks, we're going to reach out to a graphics guy, to just create and give us cover design. So every time we see it, we're inspired. Okay, we're on a journey. And then the next, maybe in another few weeks, we'll do research. Over time, you have not written the book yet.
Gochi, I think your network is not that clear.
So you have started doing little things
Gochi, can you hear us?
that are leading you towards a
Ugochi, I think we have a network challenge with Ugochi. Let me quickly take the question from Olatunde Adebayo. Olatunde Adebayo is asking, please, what are the needed capacity to attempt big things? I'm going to ask Dr. Motola to address that.
So, one of the biggest ones I'll say, what are the I think the first one is persistent, because the truth of the matter is, yes, it's good to dare great things. I think, was it some days ago, like 2 or 3 days ago, the founder of Virgin Atlantic, Richard Branson, some of you might know him for his book, attempted to, Ugochi is back.
What's that big goal?
Okay. So
yeah, continue, please.
So I'll say persistence, because whatever journey, whatever thing, whatever you define as big, because big is different from everybody. What I might think is big might not be big to somebody else, but what you might think is big might not be big to another person. But persistence is key, because you may not eat it the first time, but you cannot afford to give up. So it's that hope renewal, knowing that, what, every day in every way you're going to get better if you don't give up, if you don't quit. So that's one capacity I'll say you grow in your persistency, like growing in persistence, because it's so easy to get bogged down by why it cannot work. And then the second thing in being able to do that is also like increasing your sense of possibility, like convincing yourself, like basically getting drunk on why you can make it happen, why it can be possible, irrespective of all the fact of your life that says that it's not going to happen, or all the things that are not for you in that regard. So I'll say those are the two things, at least, like to get you started.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Fee, do you want to add to that? She said persistence is key. Any comments to that, to the question being asked by Olatunde Adebayo?
To attempt big things, there are quite a number of things involved. But for me, the most important thing is believing in yourself. Even when every other person does not see it, or every other person thinks, oh, you're overreaching, or they feel nobody has done this before, or nobody in your family has done this before, nobody in your village has tried this before. If you believe that you can do it, that is one huge motivating factor that keeps pushing you on. So if everybody doesn't see it, you put the picture before you, the picture is in your mind, and you keep seeing it, that look, I can do this thing. I can be big. The people who are big are not They're not superhuman. I used to, as a child, I used to have the fear of mathematics, well, like many children did. And I remember my maternal grandfather saying something to me that the people who wrote the textbooks are human beings. That if it took a human brain to create the problem, it takes a human brain to solve the problem. And that demystified it for me. So there was no problem, even though I still did not have the natural inclination towards math, but it didn't have that scare factor to me anymore. I believed I could do it. I believed that if I just set my mind to it, I would do it. And then another thing that would help in attempting great things is, why do you want to do that thing? Is it because you just want to, you're competing with somebody, or because I've heard that this person, right now it's graduation season and quite a number of my friends are putting up pictures, they're getting their PhDs and all of that. The next thing for me to do now is not to say, everybody's getting a PhD, so I need to go and get a PhD to prove that I am also booky or I'm also bookish. No, who am I proving anything to? What's my why? If I'm going in to take a PhD degree, then why am I doing it? So for you to attempt something big, for you to take a step in the direction of doing something grand or something a little bit more than the ordinary, you need to define why you're doing that thing, and that guides you along with your focus on where you're going. And I think anybody with those combinations, with many other things, will not get it wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Wattle has mentioned persistence. You have also said belief, self-belief, and it's very important for people to recognize that those two things are powerful ingredients. But we also need to add to the list, right? We need to add to the list what I think people sometimes feel that it should be relegated to the background, and it's the word competence. Competence is a very important ingredient to attempting big things. There are people who have died, who have killed themselves, who have killed their dreams, who have aborted destiny because they went into some areas without competence. Competence is almost like the foundation for every other thing. And let me explain why I said so. Because it's almost like, imagine you want to fly a plane and you believe you can. You want to fly a plane and you're persistent that you will fly a plane. If you don't have competence, if that plane takes off, it might not land well. So competence is very, very important. And most times, the beauty of this is that if you don't have what we call inherent competence, you should be able to have what you call conditioned competence. Competence that does not reside inside of you, you must be able to find a way of creating it to be your own competence. What I simply mean is that as long as I can't fly a plane, I must have someone who is competent who can fly that plane. And that's why you see sometimes businesses, educators, professionals, stakeholders, practitioners, even when they do not know everything about what they are doing, even when they've not seen everything, the length and breadth of what they are aspiring for, sometimes they enlist the help of a support, a guide, a mentor, a coach. Sometimes they take text, they take manuals. These things act as conditioned competence to them. And a lot of times what happens is people don't want people to help them, so they cannot be part of their success story. And people don't have the competence. So they faith it, they believe it, they persist with it, and they end up with heightened frustration. And as we look at the topic today, really, I'm going to ask our analysts further questions, right? How do we how do we of big things do not end with an attempt? You know, an attempt is to say to try. And sometimes people try just, let me just. How do people integrate the principle of collaboration? Big thing. Gochi, are you back now? Okay, let's have Fini then.
I didn't hear your question clearly. It was breaking in and out.
Okay, can you hear me
Okay,
now?
okay, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay. Was the question for me, sir?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just do a very quick run through of the first thing you asked me, and I said, don't, you're not small, you're capable of big things. Second thing, don't be scared, because there's really nothing to be scared about. And one thing that can help you not to be scared is always break down that big plan into small and manageable steps. When you break it down, it makes it look more achievable. You do not feel overwhelmed. When you see it on your to-do list, you don't have a heart attack because you have broken it down. But when you leave it as just one big plan, even you get scared when you see it. So I gave an example of, if you are planning to write a book that you want to be read across the entire continent, right? You break it down to say, okay, first things first, what do we even want to write about? You give yourself a timeline, maybe 2 weeks, brainstorm on possible topics. Another 2 weeks, what will be the outline for this topic? Maybe another 2 weeks, discuss with a graphic guy on possible ideas for cover design. Over the few weeks, the weeks coming, you are taking incremental steps towards the big plan, and you do not feel overwhelmed, as opposed to when you just come and sit on your to-do list, write a book to change the nations of the earth. You will have heart attack. But when you have broken it down, it makes it more achievable. And so, tying it to the question you asked about, how do we ensure that it's not just an attempt, you actually get to do it? One of the ways is actually this breaking down, making sure that it is in small, manageable steps. The other way is by working with teachers, coaches, mentors, people who have walked the path you're about to go, who have the practical tips to help you. Because when you work with people who have knowledge that you do not have, it shortens your learning curve. They help you. So you are not just going around searching everywhere on Google, when you can work with people that have tips that have worked for them, that you can actually just take, implement, and run. It's really important that you work with people who have gone ahead of you to ensure that you have the necessary support, you have necessary morale boosters to achieve your goal. And then, of course, accountability is also very critical, because if you are not accountable, you will not do it. You will not do. So you have to have a system for accountability for your own self, with or without people, and then the ones that involve people. I remember a friend who wanted to write one of those professional exams for accounting for this year. I think that was her plan for either first or second quarter. And she reached out to me and she said, Coach, I really want to write this exam, and I know that it's important for where I'm going to. So this is what will happen. Every month when I don't finish the timetable that I have sent to you, I'm going to send you a particular amount of money that will pay me. When it is coming out from my account, I know that, yes, and the first month, that's how she did not finish. So this girl paid the money. By the second month, it was already looking like she was going to pay the money. I had to sit down and say, Madam, so if we continue like this money, but that showed a lot of intentionality. And guess what? She finished everything she needed to do, and she passed in one sitting. So it's just important that as much as you have your own personal accountability metrics, also have an accountability metric that involve other people, so that you are really moved and pushed, so that it's not just an attempt, you actually get it done. Sorry to me, you're laughing. I'm done. You are muted, sir.
Can you imagine? In the journey of doing great things, it's not enough to know what you're supposed to do. You must be patient to learn how you're meant to go about it. Else, you'll fall successfully. every end has its process. If you tilt or lack the know-how, you will achieve a wrong destination. That's very true.
Yep.
I just remember something I saw online, and our topic of today actually was what triggered the laughter. So when we're talking about attempt big things, right? So a lot of times it means that you're probably, daring status quo, which is the question I'm going to ask Finn. But let me tell you something that happened on Sunday. So it was Thanksgiving in some churches, right? And they were told to come in their traditional attire, like their cultural traditional attire. So everybody wore their attire, and I'm asking Finn this question. Everyone wore their attire, and one guy, according to the story, oh yeah. So being that he's from the lineage of masquerade, so he wore masquerade for Thanksgiving in church. That masquerade attire. His name is Egunjobi. So wherever dancing forward to the altar, he also came forward to dance. And that categorically illustrates what you are talking about, attempting big things. What's the place of cultural context? And what's the place of cultural content? The question is the
Okay, so when I saw that masquerade in church thing, it was interesting to me because, well, for me, that's not a big thing. That's just being different. That's being unique. That's being, well, identifying with his ancestors. He probably had a dream overnight and they whispered in his ears and said, look, they're about to forget us, so you need to go and represent us today in church. And so he represented, he showed up, he really showed up for his guys. But attempting big things and bringing it to cultural context, I would say that many times we have allowed culture to hold us back. And so you have somebody, for instance, in the issue of marriage, some people want to get married, and then you hear stuff from the family like your older brother or your older sister is not married yet, so you can't skip the line. You have to wait for your own. What if my older sister doesn't have marriage on her cards for the next 5 years? Does that mean I should not do what I want? Does that mean I should not live my life? And for somebody in that context, the big thing for that person may be getting married, maybe the marriage, and they need to be able to break that cultural barrier that says, oh, because the older one is not married, the younger. It's a lot better these days. So these days, sometimes you have the last born in the family getting married first. But it wasn't like that just a few years ago. And I would just say that for when it comes to culture and pursuing your dreams, sometimes people cannot do certain things because the culture doesn't allow a woman to do it or the culture doesn't allow a man to do it. These days, we have a whole lot more of male chefs. It wasn't like that not too long ago because it was believed that it was the woman alone that had to be in the kitchen. And there are men who really love to cook, who part of the joys of their lives is cooking. And maybe the dream they have is to establish a world-class restaurant. And because culture says you are a man, you're not supposed to be in the kitchen, then they put that aside and say, oh, I can't do this thing. I can't attempt this big thing. There are times that we need to know when culture is just being shackles on our hands and feet and still go on to do those things that we really need to do or those things that we really want to do as long as it's not hurting anybody. So the fact that I'm a woman and I want to have a mechanic workshop. I want to have a hub for panel beaters, for all of that. If that's my dream as a woman, what stops me from doing it? Culture, no. So yeah, we need to be able to know when culture is actually holding us back, or culture is holding us back out of fear that, oh, if this person gets empowered, or if this person attempts this thing and then they break loose of that thing that is holding them down, then we won't have access to their, to be able to control them the way we want them, the way we want anymore. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Motola, are you there? Hello,
Yes,
Dr. Motola.
yes, I'm here. I'm here.
I know that you if I was to describe you as an element, you would easily fit in to be a dynamite. You are one who like odds. I want you to share with us and also by big things. Are there hacks? Are there shortcuts? Are there things that people should do? Because sometimes I've said this to many people that we need to change our conception or perception of hard work. Sometimes to do big things, it's not necessarily by suffering and hard work. So I want you to just share with us, what are those hacks? You know, being called the funding magnet, and of course the triple wealth coach. Could you just, share your thoughts on the topic? And
Sure. So for me, I would say, like you said, yes, it's not about working hard, it's about working smarter. And so it's about like counting the cost to say, okay, this is, like you said, competence is important, believing in yourself is key, like Finn said, not thinking that you're small, like Ogochi said, and persistence and all of that. But in all of that, it's about, there's this saying that says to prepare to prepare to fail is to plan to fail. So to prepare to plan is to plan to fail. So it's the same thing when it comes to like hacking the system towards attempting big things and making it happen. Like it is important that you count the cost and then identify, like Ogechi said, and most of us have said, who has done it, who has done what I'm trying to do. Is there a template that can work? And it's not about copying. I think that's another big issue that I see a lot, especially from our context and from across Africa. Is like we think that, oh, people are copying us. They're not copying you. Think of China. China have copied everything that have ever been done in America, and then now they're overtaking America in like production, in creating things. Most of the things that most people aspire to get, that like iPhones, all of these computers, they are made in China. They are made, and that's because China, like what like said, they act into. I think they like, you know what? We may not have the technology, we may not be the first to come up with the idea, but that did not stop them from creating and duplicating and applying the system that works. And so one of the acts also will be to study yourself, know yourself very well, like do a SWOT analysis, the same way you do it for a business. Where is your strength? Where is your weakness? What are the opportunities and threats to that those big things that you want to make happen? And then now package, like put get around people or things or resources that can help you to elevate your strength and minimize your weakness as much as possible if you cannot work on it right now in that sense of the way. And so that will be some ways that I believe to act things. Don't believe that, oh, because it has been done, it's copying. No, like if it has been done and they've already shot, they're going to shorten your learning curve and the years it takes you to be able to make it happen, then by always humble yourself and go learn under the person, or go ask for help, or go invest in their course or in their mentorship or in their tutelage and things like that. And then just also like not displacing the power of God. Because I think sometimes like a lot of us we think that, oh, I got this because we've gotten one success under our belt. We think that we are all that. And it's like at the end of the day, there's still a power, there is a divine power that is more than what we can even imagine or think of. And relying on that power and trusting in that power that before we were ever formed in our wombs, he knew us, he created us, and his plan for us is good. And so not forgetting that source and not just saying that, like not just going for the present of like give me gift, but like also the presence of that source in our life. I think that can also definitely shorten the curve and be one of the greatest act we can ever have. Thank you. I can hear you.
We've learned a lot
You're
today.
muted, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that. We've learned a lot today, and you guys have really opened our eyes. I just want us to have just in 20 seconds, everyone, let's have a parting shot. One liner, 20 seconds, starting with feedback to Dr. Motola, and then we'll end with Ugochi. Sophie.
Think it, see it, you can do it. You're much more than you think you are. Thank you.
I know you're having a career plan for rapping and music. Good luck.
We're going in together.
I'll say that remember that you're fully resourced. You've been sourced from before you even got to this planet, and you have all that you need to bring about any of those big things that you want to make happen. So trust yourself, trust in the power that lives in you, and bring it out and use it to go move mountains and make things happen.
All right, coming from the powerhouse doctor of the USA. So now to Ugochi, over to you.
You are not small, you are capable of big things. So break down that big goals into small and manageable steps and get on it right away.
You're not small. Sometimes when Ugochi says some things, it has secondary, tertiary meaning. So we're not small. Ugochi is not small, yeah. I know. You're not small. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. It's been a great pleasure to have had you on the show today. For those of you going to watch the replay, please drop in a comment, send in your comments. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us or the analyst. Like our videos, subscribe to our channel, share the videos to others. Always ensure that you stay good and you stay great. As we end the show, remember the grant development webinar is taking place on Saturday, 17th of July, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a great time together on the show. We are always bringing you fantastic things to add value to you, to your profession, to your path, to your person. And of course, our goal is that you end up growing. So we thank you for your commitment to our tribe members. Thank you. Bell of blessing to everyone on the show today. Over to you at the count of 1, 2, over to you, ladies. 1 to go.
It's always a great day, a good money, and a good money education show.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.